laid out for me.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
Leading down to the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
What do you think?
I know this road is there for me. If I'm really free, take me down to the river and walk.
All right, folks. I got Sasha with me, so I'm going to turn it over to him and let him talk about what he's got going on, including what's going on in the news from Russia and everything like that. Rick should be joining us shortly, but I'm going to turn it over to Sasha. So, Sasha, tell folks what you've got going on, and I'll be right back shortly.
Okay. Soon, in the beginning of June, in Russia, St. Petersburg, there will be a traditional annual economic forum. And it's for the first time in many, many years, there will be representative of the United States of America. What the hell the U.S. representative doing in a fascist country on economic forum of a country economy which is dying and is absolutely meaningless? What is that? It's another attempt of Donald Trump to support his friend Putin. American taxpayers have to pay for it? I don't know. It's rather strange. So I really don't understand that. Rick, do you have any ideas what's American representative doing in Russia Economic Forum in June?
No. Are we going to the Russian Economic Forum in June?
For the first time in many years, there will be a U.S. representative.
No, this is the first I've heard of it. And, Trump has played footsie with Putin for 30 years. I've had on my other show for 9 years, I've been arguing that Trump is a useful idiot, I think is the term. Somebody who respects Putin immensely, who wants to do business in Russia. He wanted to build Trump Tower Moscow. And then my opponent, Lance, on the show says, you keep saying that Trump is a Russian spy. No, Trump is not a Russian spy. But he's a guy
who's stupid to be a Russian spy. He would never be hired as a Russian spy.
Right,
he would be thrown away as a Russian spy almost instantly.
Yeah, but he's kind of a stooge. Russia and before that the Soviet Union looked for useful idiots, people who could be manipulated one way or another to serve the interests of Russia. And Putin early on, and back in the 90s, spotted Trump as a guy who was susceptible to various means of manipulation. And he maintained a friendship with Trump, and then his bet on Trump becoming president, because he helped him in 2016, and we're still arguing about the degree to which Russia helped, but they definitely did. His bet paid off. It was the greatest freaking Russian victory over the U.S. I don't know that much about history, but it was a overwhelming victory that Russia, since 2016, has gotten a lot of what it wants because Trump is manipulatable.
Of course he is. But it goes actually much farther than just manipulation. Right now, and I talked about on previous programs, that there is a new military budget of $1.5 trillion has been discussed in Congress, and there were very hot questions asked of Hexet. And one of the questions was that what is exactly you need this money for? What's the use of proceeds? So the use of proceeds was to rebuild the stockpile of different weapons that was depleted substantially during this war in Iran. Oh, but you said last year, after 12 days war, that Iranian nuclear program has been depleted, has been overhauled, has been obliterated. Okay. So a few months later, you start a new war. So it was not obliterated then last year, no? Was it? Oh, it was obliterated or it wasn't obliterated? Because if it was obliterated, why did you start this war? Why you're using the very expensive ammunition and the weapons that you have now depleted your stockpiles, you have to rebuild new. So you're asking for $1.5 trillion, and a year later you'll start another war and you'll ask for $3.5 trillion. What kind of scam is that?
So the U.S. spends, of all the military spending in the world, all the money spent on all the world's militaries, the U.S., it's $3 trillion a year total for the whole world. The U.S. spends $1 trillion of that. We spend more money than the next 6 to 9 countries combined, which includes China, Russia, India, the UK, and Saudi Arabia. And if we added if we went from $1 trillion military budget to a 1.5 trillion, that means we would be spending more money on our military than the next 25 countries combined. It's an insane amount of money, especially since the most effective new war fighting technology is drone technology, which is cheap technology. And it renders a lot of our expensive technology less effective. So yeah, it does have the stench of a scam and of flailing and of unqualified people being in charge of the military, with qualified people who understand being fired or suppressed. The generals who don't go along with this, He-Man, bullshit from Hegseth, who was only ever a major and barely that because he was in and out of the military. The people who run the Department of Defense, the previous guy was a 3-star general who, and as I've said before, becoming a general in the U.S. military is basically going to school for 20, 30 years. Every time you try to advance in rank, you've had to spend 2 years going to specific war colleges to learn what works. So a general, a 2-star general, has had, 12 to 15 to 18 more years of military education than frickin' Hegseth has. So
the problem is that they are operating with the taxpayers' money. It's not their money. It's not their friends or family's money. It's a taxpayers' Americans' money, which are absolutely defenseless against this fraud, because through taxes and other means, they will always grab taxpayers' money and will use for whatever Trump feel fancy, whether it's $1.5 trillion budget for Pentagon or a ballroom or any other idiotic aims what he might have.
So Trump has been in business for 60 years. He grew up in the family business.
Yeah.
He turns 80 in 3.5 weeks. He's been doing, and he has become expert at making money by losing money. He like in the Atlantic City casinos, terrible decision. Atlantic City, a dying city, where the entire country with cheap airfares quit going to Atlantic City to gamble. They moved to Vegas. Now, Trump was smart enough to at least have one casino in Vegas, but he bet big on Atlantic City. He opened up 3 casinos in Atlantic City when they couldn't even support one new casino. They all went out of business. However, and lost investors 100% of their money. But Trump made money because he paid himself a salary. He pulled, millions out of the enterprise. And before they went out of business, he got himself paid millions of dollars. And as they collapsed, he took tens of millions of dollars in paper losses, which he uses to not pay taxes. Because you can roll losses forward year after year. You've got a reservoir of losses to say, well, yeah, I made $3.5 million this year, but I'm weighing against it is part of the 50 million I lost historically. So you can just keep plugging in your losses and Trump is great at this, using this to not pay any taxes while he sucks money. So Trump doesn't mind money losing enterprises, even when those enterprises are the government of the United States. He doesn't give a crap. It's not his money. He's made $4 billion. He and his family have increased their net worth by $4 billion in the year and a half since he got elected.
Well, if following his strategy, then probably overall capitulation and further bankruptcy of United States, and Trump knows how to use his knowledge, how to make money on almost any bankruptcy or any loss. So for him, that is probably a goal. That's how he's going to make all his money.
Well, I mean, the people have been directly paying him for access. He's been getting contributions, campaign contributions, from people that if somebody contributes more than $1 million to him, he will pardon a family member. He's pardoned dozens and dozens of fraudsters, most of whom either directly contributed to him or contributed to him through a family member. Companies have been giving him stock. Just here's some stock as a contribution. Then Trump talks glowingly about the company. The stock goes up. People have been giving him shares of cryptocurrency, big chunks of cryptocurrency. He puts out zero money, right, for this. He doesn't buy the cryptocurrency. He's given it in return for policies that are favorable to crypto, and for in many cases putting his name on the crypto. And the investors, the money pours in, and eventually the first investors, it's a rug pull or a pump and dump. The initial investors, including Trump, try to sneak some money out gradually, slowly, or maybe all at once. But when the money starts coming out, there's a run on the shares. Everybody tries to sell, and the value drops to pretty much zero. And he's got 6 of these scams going on, these crypto deals. He and between him and his kids, they have 6 of these various crypto instruments.
Well, people who are following U.S. politics all over the world, they see for themselves exactly what's done and how it's done. And America is losing a lot of its prestige, soft power. And right now in Europe, the tendency is to create a new type of armies or, military understanding of how to act without any United States participation. That's what's happening right now in Europe. In Sweden, there is a meeting, and I think Rubio is participating there. But Rubio, lately, he said a lot of controversial lines, and If he would say that 50 years ago, nobody would even pay any attention. But today, America is not what it was 50 years ago. And you have to watch your language and how you talk to your allies, and not only your allies. In other words, just keep a little bit tighter. Don't make arguments which are completely unjust and just alienate your friends.
All right. So I'm looking at Drudge right now. The beef prices in America are the highest in history for Memorial Day when people have cookouts. This is because we're raising
updates in your feed. Follow the secrets of the universe.
Our herds are smaller. There's decades of pressure on small ranchers have driven a lot of people out of business. Also, the slaughtering business is owned by 4 big companies, so they have a near monopoly, which also squeezes producers. That's all right. So let's take a look at what else is going on. Consumer optimism in the U.S. Is at an all-time low. People do not have confidence in their own finances and in the American economy right now. What else? Is there anything that's nonsense that might be fun? Holy crap, this isn't fun. So, you know, the U.S. has closed its borders to refugees. However, we have let in 6,000 refugees since, let's see, since October. Okay, so we've let in more than 6,000 refugees. All but 3 of them, 3 people, all but 3 people are white refugees from South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So Trump is the percentage of refugees being let in are 99.95% whitey from South Africa. This is based on the idea that white farmers in South Africa are being genocided by the black government of South Africa. But this is a lie. That South Africa has a high murder rate in general. And so some white farmers in South Africa do get murdered from time to time, because a lot of people get murdered in South Africa. But the murder rate of white people and of white ranchers is no higher and is, I think, likely lower than the overall murder rate in the entire country. It's just Trump likes white people.
What else is new?
I don't know. Let's see what else is. We've got in LA, we've got a Trumpy reality star candidate for mayor, Spencer Pratt, who's doing a scorched. Well, I mean, usually California is spared scorched earth campaign ads because California is like 2/3 Democratic, right? It's a very blue state, which means that statewide offices aren't usually up for grabs. It's the Democrat is going to win. But now we have these jungle primaries where everybody votes for everybody else, and it's possible for Republicans to actually do okay. And so we've got a LA mayor is up for grabs in a couple weeks. We'll vote, and the governor, because Newsom has hit term limits, and so we are seeing just so many vicious campaign ads all the time on TV. Calling some candidates sex perverts, But we're just getting a taste of what swing states get with in terms of nasty advertising. All right, let's. Okay, Prince Andrew, the former Prince Andrew, is in yet more trouble for sex stuff, or I don't know. Wait, maybe it's different. I'm reading this as we go. But anyway, there's a new investigation over in England. That now, okay, so we know that he was on Epstein Island and got up to no good. The no good being rape. Now a new investigation said, according to this article, detectives are keen to speak to a woman who claims she was taken to the former prince's home in Windsor. Windsor is where, I don't know if this is Windsor Castle, probably not, but Windsor is a little English town that where the royal family has probably half a dozen royal residences, and Windsor Castle is one of their residences. So Andrew had a home probably close to the Queen's house in Windsor, and apparently a woman is accusing him of taking her to his house for rape purposes. What else do we have? Yep. So more people are getting bitten by snakes because of climate change. So snakes like hot weather. So there's more hot places in the world now, more snakes, and more people getting bitten. I'm trying to find a story that is not miserable.
Okay, good luck.
Yesterday was a celebration, but sad news that yesterday was Stephen Colbert's last show at the Ed Sullivan Theater in New York City with the late. It was the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, kicked off the air after 11 years because Colbert did comedy monologues about Trump. And I worked on a show like this for years and years, and I didn't work on it during the Trump era, but I know you can't do a topical comedy show without talking about Trump. He's been, the big dog of saying crazy crap and doing crazy crap for 10 years. And I know that the people who work on these shows are paid to have to come up with new material for a decade about this guy. I remember what it was like when Michael Jackson spent years in trouble in and out of court before he died, and we got really tired of having to come up with Michael Jackson material. Same for Britney Spears, who had long runs of trouble. If somebody stays in the news too long, it's really hard to write jokes because you run out of, you have to keep coming up with ideas. Plus, it gets sad. Lindsay Lohan, we very quickly couldn't joke about her because she became, I'm thinking, anyway, it's ridiculous for the president to trouble himself about what late night says. But Trump is a baby, so he drove Colbert off the air. But Colbert has been very generous in the 7 months since he was canceled. He really has, other people have attacked his bosses. Kimmel and lots of people have said that they kicked him off because Trump wanted CBS to kick him off. But Colbert has only very gently suggested that in a comedic way. He's been a real mensch, it's just weird to me how decent the guys who host late night shows are compared to the president. It's supposed to be the other way around. That the TV hosts are supposed to be, doing coke every night and engaging in sexual debauchery, and they're not. They're like Colbert and Kimmel are good Catholics. They're family men. They're lovely people. They're charitable, and it's the president who is a dick. And it traditionally it's been kind of a little bit the other way around. And it's weird that we should look at late night hosts and find moral exemplars, positive examples of people. But that's where we are.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if there is nothing else to discuss, then we can take off.
Okay.
I'll be at 11 Ukrainian show, and hopefully see you there.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, Mark, I think we're going to get out of here unless you've got other stuff to talk about.
Well, we can really get out of here because I got his show in about 30 minutes. But I was going to say that it looks like Alberta is going to vote on staying in Canada in October. So I was actually hoping to hear some thoughts around Sasha, but we can get that on Monday. But there's a vote on whether to pursue.
People make noise about like Texas should secede from the Union. The last time a state successfully seceded from the Union was 160 years ago, 65 years ago in the Civil War. And it didn't work for very long. The U.S. came after them and waged 4 years of war to pull all the seceding states back into the Union. It's not easy to leave, to just proclaim, yeah, we're leaving the country. I assume, I don't think that Canada would go to war against Alberta to stop it from seceding. But it's not easy, and it's not anything you would want. Countries have incredible power, economic and otherwise, by being big countries. You only screw yourself by breaking your country up into little bits.
No, I agree. But apparently the other thing I was going to get to is residents apparently have burned the Ebola treatment center in Congo as anger is growing over the outbreak in that country. So protesters set the Ebola treatment center on fire, demanding the return of bodies and everything like that. So it looks like a lot of folks are angry about this Ebola outbreak. So that's the other thing that I saw that was big in the news.
So we had a couple of weeks ago, we had the hantavirus outbreak, which was not to be worried about because it's really hard to get hantavirus. Mostly you get it from rats and mice. You get rid of rodents around your place of, where you live, and you can protect yourself. Gene Hackman, the famous actor, and his wife, they were living in Santa Fe up in the hills, and rodents probably got in their house. Somebody got bitten. They got hantavirus, but it didn't lead to an epidemic because it's hard to pass it from person to person. Ebola is the opposite of that. Ebola is easy to pass it's bloodborne, and Ebola melts you from the inside out. So if you're caring for somebody from Ebola, they start bleeding from basically their whole body, but more specifically their mouth, their nose, their eyes, their ears, and as they're struggling to breathe, they are spraying blood all over the place. That blood is contagious. If you're not wearing a hazmat suit, you could get Ebola, and Ebola has like a 90% mortality rate. So the current outbreak, 830 cases, more than 180 deaths so far. And it's a dangerous disease because it's contagious. And if it mutates so that it becomes easier to catch, it could be something that spreads throughout the world. We definitely need to, every time we get an outbreak, we should be sending teams of highly trained medical professionals to shut it down, to quarantine it. Now, I think, our efforts have been kicked in the balls because, RFK and Trump have shut down U.S. aid and disbanded some of the people who could be brought in to deal. So anyway, it's as you mentioned, it's a terrible situation right now.
And the other stories I was going to get to and everything like that is apparently, and I wish Nick was here, the nation's largest public pension fund has been plagued by secrecy and underperformance. So that is, looks like CalPERS is their name. But that's definitely something that I know he's involved in. So they're saying California's two biggest pension funds have become
Let's look at CalPERS because it's got Cal right in the name. So we know that it's going on in, but this underperformance is going on in California, and this is a pension fund. So the way you run a pension fund is you take money from either deducted from payroll checks of employees, or you get employers to kick in money with every paycheck. So when I was working in TV, I got a paycheck every week or 2 weeks. I don't know, every week, I think. And then, my employers, because I was in the Writers Guild, they had to write a separate check that was, I don't know, about 10% of what I was getting paid. This separate check paid for my health care coverage and contributed to a pension fund. So the deal is that pension funds accumulate money, employer contributions, employee contributions, and then to pay the pensions, they make investments that should return, you'd hope, at least 5%. So the CalPERS is the funds that were set aside to pay the pensions of California public employees, former cops, firefighters, I don't know, maybe teachers, for more than it's for more than 2 million California public employees. It's the largest public pension fund in the U.S., and it oversees more than $624 billion in assets. And those assets, invested, well invested, should generate $30 billion a year in money that can go to pay for health care and pensions for 2 million people. So what you're saying is that whoever's been investing hasn't been getting a good return.
Right.
So let's see what the return has been. It should be 30 billion. So when I said 5%, that would be even worse than CalPERS is doing. It's been, over the past 20 years, it's been earning 6.8%. So I guess they expect even higher returns because what they're earning leaves the pension only 79% funded, which means that they have a $153 billion shortfall. And I don't know where they make up that money. I mean, if it were the federal government could just print more money to cover the shortfall. But you can't do that as a state government. So here's what happened. To try to make more money, they did aggressive private equity investment, which increased volatility. When they say volatility, it increases the chance that you're going to lose money. They invested a lot in green investments. And like one investment, like a green investment, lost 71% of nearly $500,000 in a clean energy and technology fund.
So the other thing that I saw, and then we could really get out of here, is that, and I think y'all mentioned this earlier, the Senate GOP is frustrated with Trump's $1.8 billion payout fund, so they vote on ice.
That they left town. They left a little bit earlier. They're like, we're not going to vote on this. We're not going to do anything with it, and we're just going to run away for Memorial Day.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, the Republicans are so in a lot of report when Trump does something stupid, one theme of reporting is that Republicans in Congress are privately disgusted. And anonymous sources will, are saying the senators are upset, but nobody dares speak out publicly.
Yeah, well, not only that, Rick, but they said Republicans called off the vote on the Iran war resolution that was on the verge of passing. So
yeah, the war resolution would have stopped Trump from waging further war in Iran. But the Mike Johnson, the House Speaker, prevented a vote being taken because the Republicans would have lost the vote, and it would have passed the thing that says you can't wage any more war over there. But anyway, so the block against Republicans in Congress speaking out is breaking, and you have Republicans speaking out against some of Trump's bullshit. One, I think it might have been Tom Tillis, who's been a staunch Republican senator, saying that the slush fund is stupidity on stilts. Publicly saying it, not just bitching about it with his friends, but saying it to the media. So yeah, we're seeing a slow shift, a slow melting away of Trump's support.
But not only that, but it looks like one last story is Donald Trump Jr.'s wedding will be on a small island in the Bahamas, but his father won't be there. So they're saying his father won't be there.
Yeah, and his dad was asked about it, and the dad, Donald Trump, said, I'd like to be there, but I've got so much going on, with the war and stuff. And then he added, I know him very well. So like that, he'd like to be at the wedding. He's very familiar with his own son. But yeah.
I should hope so. On that note, let's get on out of here.
All right. Well, one thing. So people have predicted that even though he's too busy to go to the wedding, people have predicted he won't be too busy to play golf this weekend. So we'll see.
We'll see what happens in that. But right now, let's get on out of here. It's been a good time.
Have a good Memorial Day, and I'll see you on Monday.
Sounds good.
All right. Are we doing a Memorial Day show?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. All right. See you then.